Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining the Free Outside podcast, where we just dive into a little bit of everything. I have some exciting news to announce, but I'm not going to announce it yet. I'm kind of looking at an FKT back to running well. So we'll see how that goes. It would probably be next month, and it would be a major FKT that I would go after. All right, enough about me. I've been in like 7 or 9 or 11 different states in the last week, so I am very tired, but today the interview is awesome. We are talking to Shelby Farrell. It's a fun interview encapsulating the speed project, the Long Trail FKTs, ultra marathons, all different kinds of projects, how committing to things. She also lives in a van with cats, so that's a pretty cool topic. A little background: Shelby has the Joshua Tree Traverse FKT out and back, Backbone Trail one way, which crazy trail, and the Backbone Trail one way again. She set that a month apart, as we talk about here on the podcast. Also, she did the Speed Project Solo, which is 340 miles of running from basically LA to Las Vegas. And then on top of that, we talk about Rim to River 100 miler, and Shelby was, when we talked, she was going to do it, like, it was probably a couple weeks away, and she ended up winning that. So this is a pretty cool conversation covering a little bit of everything, and let's just dive on into this conversation. Thanks again. We love the 5-star reviews, the 5-star ratings, I think we call them. All right, let's get after it. Live in a van with cats. That's so crazy.
Pretty much just made the decision like 2 days ago, so.
Yeah, I'm just like gonna poke around, record some interviews, make like a more fun podcast than everyone trying to turn trail running into ESPN.
I'm excited for you. What's the name of it gonna be?
Probably just Free Outside, or I don't know.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Like, it's gonna be a cold open for everything, but thanks for joining us, Shelby Farrell. Any relation to Will Farrell?
Unfortunately not. We even spell our last names differently. I'm Farrell, and he's got an E in there, so.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. That has been the first episode. Wanted to have you on because among everything, you've done both long things on the road, long things on the trail, races, FKTs, everything in between. You've succeeded, even sometimes twice in a month, like taking down the Backbone Trail twice in a month. Not sure why you'd want to do that, but that's cool. And then even going after the Long Trail. So what got you into trail running, ultra running, maybe walking on the trail? How did you even come to this weird sport?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, like specifically trail running too. I feel like nobody's asked me that. It's always like, why did you get into running? But yeah, there's different phases here. So like first I did get into running, and I learned what a marathon was in like 2013. And then I signed up and ran my first marathon that spring. So immediately got into the long stuff. There was no...
So were you always competitive? You were like, I heard about marathon running, now I have to do one.
Yeah, I think there's always been a little bit of competitive energy inside me, but not always used towards sports. I dabbled in sports in high school and like was not that great. Often got the Spirit Promoter and Motivator Award, which was a can of Spam. Spirit Promoter and Motivator for our swim team. And like just I liked practicing. I like fitness, but had really bad hand-eye coordination and didn't really understand how to push myself yet. I think after I ran my first marathon, getting the idea that, oh, I could run a Boston qualifying time was really intriguing. And so that was where I started to get a little bit more competitive with myself and just trying to run faster. And it wasn't until it actually like continued to happen quickly. I started to say like it wasn't until, but it was really like 3 months later, I signed up for a 50K trail run on J Peak, which actually covers part of the Long Trail. So it's, yeah, not like just a little fire road prance.
That's like one of the harder portions of the Long Trail, and you just dove into that for a 50K?
Yeah, in old road shoes. I had no idea that trail shoes were even a thing. Um, and I'll never forget, like the little Nathan bottle thing, like that usually maybe a marathoner might wear, the tiny little bottles. Or, I mean, Camille Herron could probably wear that during this J Peak race and be fine. But I just remember them like falling out on one of the rock scrambles and watching one of my stupid little water bottles like roll away. Like,
How did you even hear about 50Ks or trail races? Because I think it took me forever to even know that trail running had races.
yeah, I have literally no idea how I heard about this race. Like, and maybe they gave us a pamphlet at that marathon in the spring, and I was just going through my little runner goodie bag and was like, oh, 50K on a mountain. I don't know how far that is, but sounds beautiful. Let's go. So yeah, definitely just like fell into it. I grew up on a long dirt road, and so I've always loved just wandering off into the woods and getting lost and exploring and like that feeling of adventure. So it just seemed like an opportunity to do all of that in a more controlled setting.
Yeah, and so that was like 2013. How did you get into longer and longer and longer, and then eventually FKTs? Was there a big gap in there, or and then you lived in LA too, the mecca of trail running, as they call it, you know?
You'd be surprised. No, you'd be surprised.
Well, there are a lot of trail runners because there's a lot of people.
Yes, that's an interesting concept. A lot of people. Yeah, so it was a slow progression from there. So I did the 50K and then did another marathon the next year, and really kind of wanted to see where I could get in the marathon and try to qualify for Boston, which just felt like a good arbitrary goal at the time. But I think that in that, and it took about 7 attempts in the marathon to finally BQ, I was just like, oh, there's other things and I can go farther. What? And so signed up for a 50-mile trail run, and then yeah, kind of just kept going from there. 50 to 100 to 250.
Yeah. So how many times have you run Boston? Have you done it twice then?
I actually have done it once, and it was pretty sweet. I qualified, and then I was sort of over it and wasn't going to try to fit in, trying to get in and do Boston.
Okay.
And then I had the opportunity to run it while I was living in LA. I was working with Adidas Runners Los Angeles, and Adidas is a huge sponsor of the race. So a bunch of us were able to go, and my qualifying time was still valid. So that was sick. I was able to like get seated in the right corral and experience it as I would have. Yeah. And so
yeah. And your video was awesome. It was so cool.
Thank you. That was the next thing I was going to say. I like celebrated Boston. I didn't try to hammer Boston. I had just finished the speed project solo. So I think I was just like a month out from running my first 290 miles.
Just casual. PR. Yeah. Casual 290.
Yeah. And so I was just grateful that my legs felt good enough to cruise a 4:20 pace at Boston. I mean,
nice.
4:20 pace, 4 hours and 20-minute marathon.
Yeah. I just remember the like Snow Angel in all the cups or whatever that was. And yeah, that video was really fun. I think it's, you got to bring back some of those videos. That was the most fun way. And it made me think I'm probably going to do 2 more road marathons in my life, 1 to qualify for Boston and 1 to run it that way.
Yes, I think you should. Sorry, like there was an earthquake because my cat just decided to like try to jump on my computer, but we're good.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another topic that you normally live in a van with cats, which I think is incredible.
That is in the house right now. Wait, okay, but just to finish the marathon thought, you should do it. Run it for fun. I ended up running the LA Marathon this year. Whatever year it is, 2023. And I still have to edit the footage I have from that, but I took the same approach. A friend popped a bottle of champagne in the middle of the race, and I don't really drink regularly. Like I don't. So I treated both Boston and LA like my party of the year, and it was really fun. Like the last couple miles of a marathon are pretty great with a little buzz. So I recommend if you're into that.
Better than without one. They're the only marathon I've done. I had like such bad cramps by the end and everything. It was atrocious. I'm sure a little champagne would have helped.
Definitely just get like the burps up.
Yeah, I mean, get everything up. I think I was trying to eat I was 19, so I was just trying to eat like 3 bananas in the last 6 miles, thinking that would suddenly cure everything. And
wow, you started young though.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to fit in running around partying in college, but I managed to.
Wow.
Sort of. Yeah, good enough. So how many marathons have you done now?
I don't know. Probably at least 10, probably more than 10.
Okay.
I have a list somewhere. I don't know if I've added to it in a while, but it would help. Yeah, it's a reference point.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I never dabbled in that much. Half marathons were kind of the limit that I could do without training in college. So moved on from those. But let's jump more into what it seems like you've gone after more recently in the FKT realm. So you lived in LA, worked in LA, and then uprooted, lived in a van with your cats. And I mean, one of my favorite trails in FKTs, the Long Trail, you literally took it so seriously as in to live basically on the trail and train for it. How did the idea for the Long Trail FKT start, and how did you attack and plan for that?
Yeah, gosh, love that trail so much.
It's so hard.
It's so wild. It's so hard. Yeah, I think that what's been happening for me over the last couple of years is just trying to orchestrate my life in a way that I'm doing everything that I love to do and just like living my life to the fullest and doing it, you know? And so the Long Trail came about as a epic challenge that was really close to me. I went to college in Vermont, met my husband in Vermont, like did a lot of fun things in Vermont, like just a lot of formative years all through my early 20s, playing mostly skiing on those mountains. As we just discussed, I wasn't really running at the time. So the Long Trail connected a lot of memories for me, and what better way to prepare for it than like be out there training on it. I knew that it was extremely different from the trail that I had been running on in Los Angeles. And like you're saying, LA is the mecca for trail running. I mean, it might not be the mecca, but surprisingly, there's a lot of really great trails out there. And it was in Southern California that I found out how much I love the sport and that I could be competitive in it. And it's Southern California is where I learned about FKTs and like had my obsession with the Backbone Trail. So yeah, can't knock SoCal trails.
No, you can, in like an hour, you can hit like 4 distinct mountain ranges. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, and the weather's perfect, so that's cool. The weather was not perfect on the Long Trail this summer.
I mean, massive flooding. Were you out there during the flooding?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I wish I took video from inside of the van on days when it would be pouring rain and we would go out and run for 5 hours in it. And it was just what I was doing to train. It didn't matter. So there was only one time where I cut a run short because it felt legitimately dangerous. You could see the damage from previous flooding. The lightning was pink. The ground seemed unstable. It was getting dark. So there was one run definitely cut short from the weather, but otherwise we trained through it. And I was ready for that FKT. Like, so I guess to answer your question, if I was going to go after the Long Trail FKT, I was going to do it right, which meant really experiencing the trail. And we got one hell of an experience this summer.
Yeah. And you had you even got a coach for it all and everything too, like dove head first into it.
Yeah, that was nuts. I've said for a while I love creating my own training plans. It's satisfying. There's nobody to blame but myself if something goes wrong. But I had been working with Martin, who's the trail captain for Adidas Runners Los Angeles. Like, we were running together all the time, and he is just way more into the science behind things than I am, and just has, that brain for trail running. And so took the opportunity to have him coach me, and he's still coaching me, which is, it's just really nice to not have to plan my runs and being able to trust the data, even though there have been times where I'm like, oh, I don't think it's working, blah, blah, blah. And then like the week later, I'll have like what feels like a breakthrough run. And you're like, okay, it's good. Just, trust it. So, yep, working with Martin. He's doing a great job. And we really got to do specific training for the long trail, like a lot of just great interval pushes on the terrain that I would be exploring for essentially 5 days. So
yeah. Good. And going into an FKT, which obviously you have to, second place doesn't get anything. You have to break a very specific time. How much of a planner and spreadsheet person, and especially supported, that's something that's so foreign to me. How do you plan that? Are you penciling out every like 5 to 10 miles, or is there a little buffer in there, especially with Vermont weather?
Yeah, we did not know what was going to happen with weather. I do kind of like making spreadsheets. They're not going to have an intricate formula in them or anything, but they'll be aesthetically pleasing with a color scheme, and just there's a style to my spreadsheets for sure. For this one, I utilized the Avenza map quite a bit, actually, to figure out where my different checkpoints would be. I had that all into my watch too, which was nice. And so you're just like getting clear data between the map and the watch and like the spreadsheet. I think hopefully that made it easy for people to figure out where I was and how far I needed to go next. Basically what I'm trying to say is trying to get as much of all of those little points in a manner that 10 different people or more can figure out what you're trying to say, and like orchestrate around it is the purpose of the spreadsheet. And so it's like a communication plan of sorts.
Because once you start, you're probably just focused on moving forward, and people are like coming up there to join you in the middle, and you're probably not in charge of meeting up with them and stuff. So how complicated was that?
I put everybody in like a WhatsApp group, and had Jason, who was crew chief, and then 2 friends, Will, who Ultra Bad Will, and Vanessa were I called them the pace captains, and I was like, all right, you guys are in charge of this, like keep it going. There was an error in the first day where just logistically we couldn't get from where I started to the aid station like 3 miles in, and I should have communicated that, but it was like on the spreadsheet, so I figured, oh, they'll see it, they'll figure it out, they'll be there, and then they weren't there. And so then that was kind of the first realization of, at the end of the day, a supported FKT is still your responsibility. It's still your little scheme in your head, no matter how beautiful your spreadsheet is. So it's tricky. It's definitely like, I would never want to be a wedding planner. I think this is about as close as elaborate wedding planning as I want to get, is planning FKTs for myself.
I wonder if that'll be a new realm in the endurance world, is FKT planner.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think Cole Crosby and his partner started like a crew service. So
I mean, there's like 10,000 of them on the FKT website. Like, there's probably enough. You could have a FKT planning service or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, next business plan. We could go in it together.
Yeah,
I'll make
I don't know.
spreadsheet.
I don't know if we have a commitment to that. I like doing them when I get to do the FKTs or it's a friend.
Yeah, you're right. I probably would just, might sabotage a few people.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to plan for the Long Trail FKT, do y'all?
Yeah, here's my plan. Good luck. Yeah.
String Bean's a good guy. I know he's helped a lot of people with the Long Trail specifically. So
yeah. That one's blown up in popularity over the last couple of years, but especially this year, a lot of action too.
Yeah, well, I'll be back for 2024, so more action coming.
Yeah. So in the supported efforts like that, when you get to where you're going to take a break or eat or sit down or change things, what is the scene like? Do you just plop down in a chair and then everyone's like handing you food, or you put on Normatec boots or chugging ketones, or what is going on? Are you just sitting there as the queen and things happen around you, or do you have a lot of things you're going through as well?
It's a little bit of both. I think that for this one, there are a lot of queen bee moments, which were awesome, but also I really needed to take more control and, be a functioning adult and not let people serve me like they did, although it was great. So that was an interesting thing to reflect on, and I'm curious to see the film coming out in November to see what that really looked like.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that I would want to get done in those breaks, and the struggle with the Long Trail is there's no service pretty much anywhere. So where in most situations, even a race, I could communicate, oh, I'm 3 miles from you, like I want this, and they could prepare oatmeal or something warm or whatever. There was none of that for the Long Trail. So for one instance, I really just wanted to Theragun my legs. Like I was realizing that my body was starting to feel worn and I wanted to do some kind of body work. And that turned into Shelby wants a spa day. And it was this whole joke that was actually pretty funny throughout the whole thing. Like I really wanted a burger, and there's this note that I think Vanessa had taken a picture of, and it was like, hamburger spa. Like, what is happening?
Our next business, FKT planning and hamburger spas.
Yes. So there's something in that. There really is. So yeah, I think there are some princess moments for sure, but what I wanted to do was get in there and officially take care of my needs so I can get going again. And I think that there's a way for next year to like condense those needs. And somebody this weekend was talking about how they called it like a get shit together stop or something like that, where that would be the stop where they brushed their teeth and they changed their outfit and they like did kind of the getting their life together moment. And so something like that is, I think, such a good idea, where you're condensing some of those similar tasks to one aid station break so they don't end up getting spread out like chaotically throughout the whole thing and wasting time. So that's one solid takeaway that I've kind of been reflecting on.
Yeah, it seems so hard with supported in that you lose some of that efficiency for the sake of moving faster and lighter. It's like when you get to the aid or the crew, it's like you have to do all these things that if you carry more with you, you can almost do while moving slower. Was someone kind of in charge of being like, all right, it's time to get out of the chair? I keep wanting to call it a trail. I don't know. To get out of the chair and back on the trail, would someone kind of have like a timer and push something like that? Or when you took a sleep break, did you come up with how long you wanted it, or how did you manage those kind of logistics?
It was a mix for sure. Like the goal is that once you get in, somebody sets a timer, and I'm going to start utilizing, and I did quite a bit on the Long Trail, actually utilize my lap button in those situations, just so like you can just glance down and know, okay, I've been here for 5 minutes, versus the waiting for somebody else to tell you and thinking you have more time or whatever. So there was a timer going, and there have been times where Jason has told me, like, I want you to sleep 4 hours. And I'd be like, no, the plan is 2 hours, and like argue about it. And I think that's a tricky one, because the crew can really see like when you're extremely tired, which is, like 90% of the entire thing. But so I think there's like finding a balance and like trusting your crew when they give you that insight. And I don't know, like for the speed project, I was able to say, okay, I will sleep longer here, but like I'm gonna sleep less here, and like negotiate it. So the goal is to like have a plan going into it and be able to stick to it. That'd be great, but inevitably there probably will be a pivot. And so yeah, a combination of like your own wits and taking in some opinion, I don't think hurts.
Yeah, especially once you lose your wits near the end.
Yeah.
So going into, I guess, like the second half, when you're pretty much on pace and where you want to be, like what happened from there that is, I guess, with letting you tell this story, that's the reason for going back next year.
Right. Yeah.
With some big storms and incredible adversity.
Yeah. I don't think that like technically at the second half I was where I wanted to be. I had given myself a really big buffer, and I somehow managed to chew it up by just dicking around, basically. All of the things that we've discussed, just kind of not having things as condensed and maybe not being as focused with what my pace should be. And like the challenge of communicating that to a rotating group of pacers, like, no, we really need to keep her on this pace. Don't let her stop and pop a blister with an earring. Like, it's hard though. It's hard, and they don't know. You don't really know in the moment. So, I think that had I tightened things up earlier on, then when I hit a storm, I guess I'll tell the story. On the final day, I had just over 40-ish miles to the finish, and I was really wrecked, sleep deprived. There's this video of me just like stumble crying down Stratton, like begging for the van to be there, and you can just see the dehydration in my back muscles. Like I'm a mess, like hot mess. But I was nonetheless still moving forward and still very, very determined, and really knew that I just needed a little bit of sleep to kind of, get the brain cells firing better.
Yeah.
And so I got the rest, and I went out for a 22-mile section through the night with a pacer, and just didn't bring a rain jacket. It wasn't supposed to rain. Multiple people on the team had checked the weather, and we ended up getting this deluge of a storm that actually flooded neighboring towns. Crazy lightning. Just it was a gnarly storm. But like we discussed at some point on this call, I had trained in that weather, and so I wasn't really afraid of the storm. But where the fatal error was not having that rain jacket and being so sleep deprived. So I could no longer take these 1-minute dirt naps or try to do I had to move, or I was going to freeze. Not freeze because it wasn't like 30 degrees, but it was cold enough, and I was wet enough, soaked through every layer of clothing, that you just can't really warm up well.
Yeah, and you're in such a deficit in calories and stuff too. You have to be, so bundled up. Your body, just even after like a couple hour run, your temperature is off.
Yeah, huge deficit too, because I definitely wasn't trying to eat while I was running through this storm either. I was just like going, and I was very determined. And that whole experience honestly feels like a complete dream. I was trying to think about it on a run the other day, like what even happened. Like it just almost doesn't feel real. But made it to the shelter, was able to get some warm clothes and taken care of by a really wonderful wilderness first responder lady and her partner.
Yeah, through
And
hikers, right? With real through hiker names, trail
real
names.
through hikers, Blackstrap and Taco Cat saved the day.
That could have been their real names, maybe.
I wish. They were really great. They really were great. It was such a weird, wonderful experience. And I cognitively got there, and I'm sure I looked and smelled awful, but I felt pretty with it, honestly. Like, I really wanted to keep going. They weren't going to let me leave the shelter without dry clothes. And even when I got dry clothes, I put a bunch of layers on, and still took a while to warm up from that point. So, it was a good decision to call it then. Could I have taken, a 2-hour sleep and recovered and kept going? Definitely. Like, absolutely. But because, like I said, shoot up all the time in the first half, there was no buffer left. So FKT would have been like a miracle. Yeah, there was no getting the FKT with that scenario the way it played out.
Yeah, and I like the story. I think I heard it on Joe's podcast of in that shelter. So they just kept feeding you hot drinks. I want to hear that story.
Yes. Such a hot drinks. So wild. Okay, so at this point, I've accepted my fate and got our shelter. I'm laying under this woman that I had just met, like puffy blanket, wearing her clothes, and just, reflecting on everything that got me to that point. 250 miles on the Long Trail, some of the gnarliest terrain in the country, I would say, honestly. Like, yeah.
Gnarliest trail in the country, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like gnarliest consecutive miles.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I'm like feeling good about it though. I'm like, all right, we're alive. This is a great experience. So we'll get to do this again and other cool things again. And like, it's not over yet. And they're feeding me these drinks. And so it started with a coffee that had this coconut creamer in it that was like gloppy white chunks. And I remember Taco Cat being like, it's like a little thick, but I think it's okay. And she's like, yeah, it's coconut creamer. It's supposed to be like that. Drink. Cool, great. Like, drink it. Felt really good drinking hot drinks. I hadn't had any, I hadn't been that cold for the last couple of days, so I didn't have a need for hot drinks, but it was one of those times where a hot drink legitimately felt right. And then they come back with, I think the next one was the matcha drink. And I was like, this is fancy. Fancy up here at our shelter. You're getting this matcha little who knows what latte that Blackstrap and Taco Cat pulled out of their fanny pack, literally. In the middle of nowhere, 10 miles from civilization.
Such a through hiker thing and such a Vermont thing.
It was great. Then came the chai. Well, chai was nice, had a little spice. Drinking them, probably so dehydrated at this point too. It's just great, just taking in the fluids, enjoying the warmth, and being a princess again, I guess.
Whole sampler platter of every hot drink they have to offer.
At this point, Jason and Will had hiked in about 10 miles with warm clothes for me. I'm sitting there drinking my drinks, finish one. Jason's like, okay, you gotta like think about putting your clothes on now. Taco Cat comes over with another drink. It's just like, he goes, do you like turmeric? I'm like, I think so. I don't know. Sure. It's good for inflammation, right? Yeah, sure. Take it. And I don't know what happened, but it wasn't even necessarily the smell. Something happened, and I just got so nauseous. Like, knew I was going to throw up, but I just ran 250 miles, and I'm like bundled up in this blanket. There was like no moving fast to throw up. So I'm looking around. There's probably 6 people at least in this shelter right now. Like, and you know what those shelters look like. They're just kind of like these open air things, like a wood platform, and
They're pretty small too.
Pretty small. You try not to throw up in them.
Yeah, that's usually rule of thumb is you don't poop or throw up in the shelter. Everything else is kind of fair game.
And I just panic and throw up on the floor in the middle of the shelter. And then went into like a panic attack, which was it was scary for everyone at the moment. I was still like awake in my head, like, you're fine, you just can't breathe right now. And I was like, I can't breathe. And Blackstrap, the wilderness first responder woman, looked me in the eyes and was like, breathe. And then I breathed and I was fine. And I was totally fine. Like, didn't throw up again after that. I think it was just like the demons leaving my body from everything and
Wow.
too much tea.
And who had to clean up all the puke in the shelter after that?
It's a great question. I think Jason and Will probably helped, and they just got water, and it was very liquidy. It wasn't, thankfully, it wasn't like gross puke. It was just tea.
It was just like chai, matcha, turmeric, everything they fed you, coconut creamer, no big deal.
Clumpy coconut creamer.
And then did you have to hike out 10 miles then from there?
Yeah, this is a really funny story. So we found a shortcut, but it involved cutting the bolt on the fence through, who knows, some kind of logging road. And I have a dear friend, Carl, who you would get along with very well, who's just down, like drove from Waterbury, Vermont, which was not close, like maybe a 2-hour drive, with his 2 amazing daughters and some bolt cutters, and was like, we're going to get up this road so she doesn't have to go all the way down it. And so I only had to hike about 5.5 miles out, I think, which was significantly better than 10.
Definitely. Wow. And then even, I guess, in the days after that and stuff, were you already just sure you were going back next year?
Yeah, I was sick. It took me a long time to bounce back from the Long Trail. I think I'm still kind of coming to from it. My running finally feels normal and strong again, which is great. I think that these long runs just like tap you at like a very, very core level, mentally and physically.
Yeah. Yeah, the Long Trail beat me up more than anything else. I think.
Really?
Yeah, the rocks and just unstable. I rolled my ankles so many times out there. It is brutal. It's way different than anything out west.
It's really unique. Yeah, I made sure I did one. Actually, last week I ran Mansfield twice. That's just my like salute. I'm leaving Vermont, but yeah. I love you. See you soon type of a thing.
Yeah. So what are you going to change for next year, do you think, as far as maybe your personal strategy or the crew aspect as well?
I'm going to tighten up the crew a bit. I think it would be great to have, 3 to 5 pacers that are committed to being there throughout the whole week. So they're not coming in and having to get updates, and there's not like a recoaching thing that happens when you get new people later on in the journey. And I think more so than that, though, just my mental approach to it, I need to own it more and be the captain, like, and that might be my mantra, like, you are the captain, Shelby, you are the captain of the ship, something, who knows what will come out of my sleep deprived mind, but something like that. I think there was a point halfway through where I finally was able to talk to my coach, and he was like, you need to average a 20-minute mile pace and have, breaks here, here, and here in order to be able to get it. And I was so frustrated in that moment because I knew I started dropping 9.5 minute miles on this descent because I was like, I can run. Yeah. Why didn't anybody tell me to run faster sooner? And it's like, well, they didn't, because it's not their responsibility to do that. Like, you're the runner. You should have known that and pushed it. And so I think there's a big mental part where maybe I should go do some unsupported FKTs and like kind of regroup on my own grit and power.
Yeah. will you do it the same time of year next year, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Maybe early July, because I did it at the very end of July this year, and get it done like a little earlier would allow me to recover to have more options for a fall race.
Mhm.
But it's so hit or miss with rain in Vermont. They've truly been getting rain all year. So
Well, like historic flooding and stuff too this year. So
so it's going to be drier next year, no matter what, is what I've been telling myself.
I mean, yeah, the law of averages. I mean, come on, it has to be, right?
Has to be.
Yeah. So what I'm curious now about the filming it. When it's going on, do you have to do anything extra when you're running it for making a movie about it, or is that on the crew, or how are you getting footage while you're trying to get an FKT?
We actually had a film crew with us. So we got to work with Drew and Tyler, the two dudes that have been working with Sally on all of her recent long stuff. So they kind of knew what they were getting into a little bit. They missed some key shots though, just because it'll say, 1.1 mile hike, but it's not a 1.1 mile stroll. It's like a straight up, no switchback 1 point, so they had some experiences out there. I think that they were like, oh, like, well, we totally missed the summit of Mansfield because just that's not how we expected the trail to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to see what they captured nonetheless. So I didn't have to worry about filming it. My crew and pacers were getting handed GoPros, and then those guys were there for all the transition. So I think it's going to show a lot of the kind of community side of doing something supported.
Yeah, and was it through Adidas is kind of where it sparked from? Is that where it'll show and air?
Yeah. So I was super lucky to work with Adidas Terex while in Los Angeles for the Adidas Runners LA, and they were interested in this story. So it will be on the Adidas Terex YouTube channel mid-November-ish.
Nice. Do you get any say on how you look or anything in the film? Do you get to see it before everyone else does?
I think I will get to see it, but I mean, I can't change how I look, so I'm just gonna have to be okay with that, I guess.
Did anyone get the puke shot in it?
I'm not sure. I hope so. It's possible that there's definitely stuff from once Will and Jason got there was a GoPro rolling a lot of the time without me realizing it while I'm sitting on the floor there. So I hope that scene gets some time, because it was really like a weird way to come down from.
Yeah, I mean, like a really good climactic ending, or like credits, puke, and then
incredibly unpredictable. Like that was the unpredictable moment for me, was that how it ended. Everything else I felt like I had envisioned and trained for, and that whole scene was like, whoa, this is out of something else.
Yeah.
So
complete left turn just right near the end. But now you've scouted it so perfectly for next year.
I'm definitely going to spend more time in that area. Apparently it's also a very, very, very haunted area, and there's a ton of folklore around it. Castleton kid went missing years ago. They never found her, and apparently she was wearing a red sweatshirt, and she still haunts those woods. So there's I keep hearing these stories of paranormal activity, aliens, all this in this particular area in southern Vermont. And so we're going to spend some more time there next summer.
I know, it sounds right up your alley.
Yeah, maybe.
So did you have any good hallucinations throughout the Long Trail?
The Long Trail, honestly, was lame for hallucinations. I somehow didn't. I was falling asleep while walking in the final moments of being on the trail and pushing. I was getting the blackout vision, but wasn't seeing hallucinations. The worst time I hallucinated was on the John Muir Trail. I was like helping pace Emily Hellman, who
Oh yeah.
you should talk to her soon too. She has a book coming out and has done some really cool multi-day FKT stuff. But she was going after the John Muir Trail FKT, and I went out to support her extremely unprepared, hallucinated my balls off, like animatronic koalas, pirate heads, yurt after yurt after yurt, to the point where you're like, okay, that's not a yurt, but wait, that one has a person sitting outside of it, so that one really is a yurt, not a yurt. I think that landscape has a lot of big white rocks.
Yeah, they can become anything. It's wild.
Yeah. The trail's so like dark and dense.
It's crazy you say it's haunted too, because that's exactly what it felt like when I was out there. Like fog clings down there and it feels really eerie. So that's funny.
Southern section particularly, I think, is a little creepy.
Yeah. Would you go southbound again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at a point where I'd see through hikers going northbound and I'd be like, what are you thinking? It's harder out there.
Yeah, way harder. I mean, the Long Trail is so crazy because it's like a trail of two halves, but apparently the southern half is like haunted.
Yeah, I think the southern half, I'll come back to you with like a better assessment on it. I did most of my training on the northern half. The southern half, I think, still has these gnarly technical moments, but there's just like a few more runnable sections in between. So you can almost, it does seem easier, but it can't be underestimated, especially because it's haunted. So
yeah, and you're just losing your mind too.
Yeah. Don't underestimate it.
What did people think you were doing out there when you're just stomping through the woods at like midnight, overnight, and they're through hiking? Did you get a lot of weird questions or comments, or did they just assume it's someone else running in Vermont?
Yeah, it was. I imagine, I haven't like looked into what the Green Mountain Club has recorded for like through hikes this year, but I imagine they're significantly less because of the weather. So it was like, the fact that there were people at Goddard Shelter when I got there was actually kind of nuts, because most of the shelters I had passed through, there was nobody there. So that was lucky. And I think probably a result of a lot of people starting later in the year. And so there were more people south than north, because the rain had just kind of gotten it together and stopped for a bit. But yeah, the thru hikers, like the ones I interacted with on training runs, were all really cool and kind of like helped fuel my stoke, honestly, because some of them were like, oh, you're coming back, I'm going to do it like fast, what? And just that seeing somebody who's like, 70 miles into it themselves, but have been doing it over days and weeks, like, yeah, to see them that excited about somebody coming and trying to like go fast, it made me excited to be that person. So I love the thru hiking community out there. It keeps that trail alive, and the caretakers just do such a great job maintaining it. It's like it's a pretty special place.
Yeah, I think that's kind of that whole East Coast in general. There's just so much more, I guess, protective nature, carefulness with the trails, since there's so much less out west. It's sort of like we just run on them and don't pay too much attention, but they really do care for their trails a ton out there.
Yeah, and I think this one being as old as it is too, it just has that history of being cared for. I hope trail runners start to care for the trails more. I think that the mountain bike community seems to be doing a really good job with trail maintenance and getting out there and making their trails, whatever they do to their trails, nice and smooth and perfect turns and good signage and all of that. And it would be great to see more trail running organizations popping up and kind of like taking ownership of the trails the same way the mountain bikers do. Yeah,
it seems like we just need more like community leaders to organize things, because I think there's a lot of willing participants, just need more connectivity to what to do out there. And yeah, it's hard, but it does feel like of the trail using groups, trail runners do fall behind even the like hunters, mountain bikers, thru hikers, overlanders, sort of.
Yeah.
So
Totally. Yeah. One day when I don't live in a van and we're like in a community, I would like to maybe be that community leader.
yeah,
It's hard when you're in a van all over the place. I haven't
van,
dug into that yet.
van down by the river full of cats. I mean, busy lifestyle.
Felicia finally calmed down now.
All right. Two more questions. What's your favorite costume or thing that you've worn that during either a race or an FKT or anything? Because I know you've had a few. The Mike McKnight, Ben Light combo was pretty funny.
That was great. Yeah, you really need to figure out your costume for Javelina.
I got one
running
figured
at
out.
the time. Okay. Well, are you gonna reveal it or?
Yeah, it's gonna be sort of a Braveheart theme.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to wear a costume when, especially with Javelina, where costumes are so heavily encouraged. When I saw people not wearing costumes my first year at Javelina, I was just kind of sad for them. So first year of Javelina, I was a unicorn. I wore a tutu for an entire 100 miles, which was pretty great, actually. And just like you could pee and you just had a tutu covering you. It was kind of like a little cover up. It was great. And it bounced and but a little extra weight. The next time I ran Javelina, I got a little more serious. And I think that you can find a lot of great spandex. And you've found some great spandex on
I have too much. I have too much great spandex.
So spandex is your friend with Halloween costumes. You may need to layer it over better spandex if it's particularly shitty cheap spandex. Like, I had the tights that I had for Javelina when I was an alien reptilian snow leopard. Basically because like snow leopards can't be in the desert, so I was a reptile snow leopard, and like the only way there could be a reptile snow leopard would be if an alien made it or it was an alien. So we went with it. Really
Obviously.
Cool spandex. It was basically a costume created around really cool spandex, like a snow leopard print with a reptile pattern overlay. And they're so cool, but they're so thin and white, so I had to wear a pair of like better shorts underneath them for obvious reasons. It wouldn't have been good. So that would be like my one pro tip with spandex and costumes is like, might need to layer a little bit.
Yeah, that's going to be my issue because I'm really getting into this running in skirts and dresses because it's just so breathable, but it's like figuring out the right amount to wear under them.
Yeah.
Having pockets.
Oh, yeah, pockets are good. Yeah, so like Jason wore a jock strap and a dress, and the previous year wore a tutu. Like, so he fully embraced like the freedom of Javelina, and he loved it. But there's definitely no pockets in it. So yeah, you got to have a fanny pack or something if you wanted to have an apartment to store things.
Yeah. I mean, we should just do a costume consulting business for ultra runners as well.
Wow. We should just rope it all into one. We'll just be like, the drop down menu on our website will be like costume consulting, event planning.
Yeah, whatever else we came up with. Yeah. All right.
Cat
I think
sitting.
that's it. Yeah, cat walking.
Let's be trained.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm gonna end all the interviews with guests with just sort of one ridiculous question that you get to take wherever you want. And the one I have for you is, if you won the lottery, so let's just say $1 billion, what's the first ridiculous purchase that you would make?
it's so fucked up that my brain went to like, oh, I'd pay off my debt first. Like,
No, that doesn't count. That's too responsible. Because
it's so
everyone's like,
stupid.
my
What's
life
wrong
wouldn't
with me?
change that much. And it's like, except I'd probably get, I don't know, buy an RV, get it lifted, put a hot tub on top of it, and go live in the desert for a month.
Yeah, you do that. You should do that. You should just do that now.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. I guess that response is a testament to like I did buy an RV and don't have a hot tub on top of it. It's not lifted yet. It would be nice to have a little more clearance, but like I do love what I'm doing. I think that there's something that would be like a little financial stability in that it would be great. So yeah, would love to win however many millions of dollars and would probably keep doing. It's so lame. Wow, what happened to me? I'd keep doing what I'm doing, but I'd like want to go to like other. I'd want to do it better. Like, yeah.
You'd get a trailer for the van to keep all your costumes in.
Yeah, there we go. I would.
Yeah.
It would be. Yeah, I would be like elevating what I'm already doing. I would have sweet e-bikes and like maybe a motorcycle and like be able to like get places. I'd buy a house. Like, yeah, it would be.
You'd hire pacers for your life in general. Pacers would just be on retainer.
Yeah, I would pay my pacers for sure. They deserve to get paid. Yeah, I don't know.
You'd get those Hoka downhill running shoes that are just like massive.
I have a pair of Crocs that I really want. Actually, like there's these Lisa Frank Croc Gibbets that I really want in a pair of fuzzy Crocs. And I'd get those.
Okay, now we're right in the realm that we should be in. You'd bedazzle your Crocs.
Simple.
Yeah.
I live with a simple life these days. It's nice.
Yeah, you can only have so many pairs of shoes in a van, but bedazzled Crocs are one of them.
You can always make room for bedazzled Crocs.
That's what we always say. Well, thanks for jumping on. This was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun talking to you. What are you doing after Javelina? Do you have any multi-day things coming up?
I might go for the Florida Trail record.
Oh, what's that?
What?
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I think it'd take like 3 weeks and go down to Florida. It would kind of suck, but it'd be something different. I think it'd be kind of fun. I haven't done a long multi-day FKT that's more than like 3 days in 2 or 3 years. So it's like, I've been thinking I need some adventure. I've raced 1,000 miles this year, so I need to just go do some FKT because racing's too organized and too many rules for me.
Yeah. Oh, keep me posted on that. We're kind of hoping we end up in Florida for some of the winter months because, well, it's warm and different. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're down there, like, after Christmas around the Jacksonville area, you could give me a ride to the start.
Yeah. It would be cool if we were. I have no idea where we're going to be, but if we're down there, which is a possibility, then yeah. Or, yeah, I'll run it. I'm going to run it too. I'm going to beat you.
Yeah, you should do it. Just like wait till people tell you their ideas and then say, oh, me too.
I was worried about that with the Long Trail, honestly, because I put it out so far in advance that I was doing it. And I was like, well, that's stupid. Like, can't control these things. So,
yeah. Are there people that are just going after everything you do right after you?
That sounds crazy, but no, there has been at least one person in LA that I've seen go after a lot of the same trails that I did in that area.
Wow.
Like, go for it. That's why you do it, though. That's why you do it.
Yeah, my mentality is always like, if it's a big one or one I try hard for, I want it for at least one season. Like, don't break it until the next year.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Although I did that to Joe last year. He only got it for like 3 weeks. The John Muir Trail. Yeah. He'll get it back. He's faster.
So much has to come together for these races. I feel like that's a good conclusion. Like, whether it's your spandex costume chafing or crazy rainstorms, flying squirrels, lots of stuff can happen out there. And
Trail Magic and Goddard Shelter.
Yeah. it's just what you do with it. So that's why I like the sport. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome how many variables there are. It evens the playing field a little.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Thanks for doing this. I'll let you know when the whole thing's up and rolling, and when I'm rich and famous from this and can buy you some bedazzled Crocs for being a guest.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thank you. It's always fun talking to you. Yeah, keep me posted on your whereabouts, as I am wandering right now. So
yeah, I go down to Arizona like 2 or 3 times a winter, and then probably Florida this year, and then I live and work remotely in Bozeman, Montana, but unless you want to ski, not a lot out here for the next few months.
I do want to ski, but we sold all of our ski gear and we moved into a van because it just didn't seem like necessary space.
Yeah.
But eventually I will be on skis again. Yeah, I don't know. I'm antsy to figure out where like my next chapter really takes me.
Yeah, crazy. And just the US, there's international too.
I know, but no, I can't leave the cats. Aren't you, Felicia? Yeah. No, but Rim to River will be fun. So first up, West Virginia, and then we'll see from there where we go.
Yeah, good luck in that one. That should be fun. It'll be a good gauge of like where everything's at after such a hard FKT too, because you can't imitate that in the long run.
No, yeah, I think it's going to be really good, honestly. Like, it's only 14,000 feet of vert, and I heard the trail's like, it's not going to be the long trail. So to me, that kind of seems like a nice hybrid of like runnable, yet still like moderately challenging terrain. And I think I'm in a good spot for that.
Yeah, my girlfriend did that as her first 100, and she said she recommends it to everyone for it has a little bit of everything, but not too much of anything. So
good.
Should be good. You'll be all set.
Yeah. Sick. All right. Well, I've been procrastinating for my run all day, so I guess I should go do that.
Yeah, it's late there too. You better hurry. Doesn't matter. All right. Good to talk to you.
See ya. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for making it through another episode of the Free Outside Podcast here. Actually, I don't think we have I think it's Free Outside Podcast. So thank you. Thanks for joining us. That's all we have for today. Western States is starting when this comes out. I guess it will be starting tomorrow. Probably talk about that some on the Monday episode, but these guest interview episodes every Friday are just fun way for me to get to introduce you guys to people who do a little bit of everything and show that there's so many things you can do. Your goals can be pretty much anything, and it's really worth chasing them. My phone just went off. So with that, we'll talk to you on Monday. Hang in there. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the summer. And stay elite, my friends.